Shana Tova. One day, Mr. Cohen's son asked his father a question. "Dad, how come you go to shul?" His father replied, "What kind of question is that? Why do I go to synagogue?" Mr. Cohen's son said, "I know you're a non-believer, an atheist, an agnostic, or whatever, so why would you go to shul? Goldberg goes to shul." "So what?" Mr. Cohen's son says. "What kind of answer is that?" His dad says, "Goldberg goes to shul to talk to God. I go to shul to talk to Goldberg." Why are we here in synagogue? Why are we sitting in these chairs tonight, tomorrow, over the next 10 days? Why are we here and not somewhere else? When was the last time you stopped and asked yourself, I know I'm going to services for the High Holy Days, but why am I actually going? You may not be surprised to hear that we will see most members of our community over the next 10 days, even those who do not regularly attend other services throughout the year. And this is consistent with much of the American Jewish community. The high holidays draw more of us here than any other holiday observance. But why? Why do we prioritize spending these days in synagogue? One reason for being here is that it's just something our people do on the holiest days of the year. Some of us are here because we were given a mandate, you have to come. Some of us actually questioned whether or not we should. We're here for friends or family, either out of guilt or wish to be supportive or because that's what everybody else was doing. We're here because that is what we've always done, and I've never thought anything more of it. Many of us also arrive hoping to look inward at who we have been and become over the last year and to explore the ways we want to grow in the year ahead. Others of us are here to talk to God, to sing out loud or to offer words silently. Some of us want to connect or reconnect with our temple community, with a spiritual path, or perhaps with oneself. Many of us are here for all these reasons combined, and some of us are here for the very first time. There are infinite reasons why each of us are here and arrived tonight, and every one of them is important and valid. So no matter what brought us here, I'd like us to take an opportunity to reflect on why we enter this sanctuary. Our daily lives are full of business and noise, but our tradition offers us a gift, these holidays that enable us to do the difficult work of reflecting on our lives. So how do we recognize what brings us here? How do we create an intention for our time in this space? And how can we allow this intention to transform our experience over the next 10 days and into the year ahead? In preparing for these High Holy Days, I reached out to members of our community, curious to learn some of their reasons for being here. And I posed the question, why do you come to synagogue on the High Holidays? And I was moved by the depth of their responses. A member of our adult learning community shared, I go to services for the High Holidays to reconnect with myself, my past, and my community. I am part of something much, much bigger than myself. I come to synagogue because I need to feel connected to all those who came before me and laid the foundation on which I walk today. I love reflecting on where I am this year on my life's journey as compared to where I was last year and as compared to others around me. The melodies and words of the liturgy touch me differently each year as I am different each year. I wonder what I'll discover, remember, and focus on this year. Another adult member shared, I am here to announce and affirm my identity as a minority, a sense and longing to belong, consistency for my children, duty and obligation, enactment of my birthright, an opportunity to learn and practice, participation in and practice of a spiritual ritual, a desire to connect with community, to deepen and further my ongoing conversation with God, the universe, and myself. Our Rosh Hashanah liturgy opens with the words Hineni, here I am, a different form but the same meaning of the word Hineni, of which many in our community are so familiar. And so we began our service this evening with our clergy reciting the Hineni prayer, a prayer that asks for our prayers to be heard and expresses humility before God and the congregation. This prayer in its origin was never intended for the community to read. Instead, it is meant for clergy to recite as services begin as prayer leaders. But to me, this prayer is deeply relevant for each one of us, because each of us needs to pause, step forward, and say Hineni. How do we tune into what brings us here and learn to say Hineni? Not just Hineni, here I am, but rather Hineni, here I am, and this is why. A member of our Chavaya teen community shared, I am here because I think services represent the ability to freeze and reflect. It's the opposite of a normal day, and I lose track of my surroundings and look inward. Rosh Hashanah is when I reflect on the year, making sure to remember a balance of successes and failures. And Yom Kippur is when I look forward and think about goals for myself in the next year. For me, the high holidays serve as a giant stop sign, saying stop and take a minute to really think about how I want this one to look and how I can be a better person. And a parent of school-age children shared, I go to services because I want to be with God in a present moment. And of course, that is easier said than done, especially during day-to-day life when it's so easy to get spun up in the whirlwind of life and time. As I grow older, sometimes I fear that time is dragging me forward against my will, and the only remedy, it seems, is to grab on to now as calmly as I can. For me, personally, I am here because these are the moments when I re-energize myself spiritually, reroot myself in the words of our tradition and in the voices of our community, to reflect on who I am as a person and the different roles that I play in my life, and whether that matches with the expectations that I set for myself. When I immerse myself within the voices of this community, something happens within. I'm here because I want to feel that inner light and joy that is energized by being in sacred space with all of you. In the words of a rabbinic colleague, I'm here to slow down, to make space for God, to listen and respond. This is how I say Hineni. There's a beautiful idea in the Hasidic tradition that we all live our lives trying to birur, or clarify that which keeps us from connecting with God. Once we have that clarity, we become nishlam, complete or whole. I love this idea that we should aim to always strive for deep connection in our lives in the pursuit of wholeness. So tonight I'm asking all of us to birur, or clarify that which brought us here. And when we feel a sense of clarity on our reasons, let us deepen our understanding, moving towards wholeness and completeness. Maybe it's tonight, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's next week, maybe it's 2 minutes or 2 hours. May we listen to ourselves and let the real reason that we are here guide us. And of course, one of the ways that we listen to ourselves is through prayer, as we all find ourselves in a house of prayer tonight and over the next 10 days. Prayer is a method for enabling us to engage with the things that brought us here. So how can we utilize prayer to answer the call we gave ourselves? I recognize formal prayer is difficult and does not resonate with everyone. However, if one way to approach prayer is to slow down and make space for connection, then each of us can truly pray in our own way. Each of us can find moments to slow our minds, to open our hearts and ears, to begin to make sense of what we experience. We all pray, just differently. What if our reason for being here, our intention that we set for ourselves, is our prayer and our pathway to Nishlam? Our tradition teaches us that we do have our own prayer. In the book of Psalms, we read, Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chastecha aneni be'emet ishecha. As for me, may my prayer come to you, O God, at a favorable moment. O God, in your abundant faithfulness, answer me with your sure deliverance. There's a beautiful alternative translation of the text, Va'ani tefilati lecha. You can read, and may my prayer come to you. Or you can read, and I will be my prayer for you, meaning that each of us is our prayer. The psalmist teaches us that prayer is not only on the page, but we are the prayer. We make prayer our own when the prayer comes from within each of us. And the prayer we offer tonight on these high holy days could simply be the intention behind what brought us here. The 11th century philosopher Bachya ibn Pakuda once said, prayer without kavanah, or intention, is like a body without a soul. Once we identify why we are here, the real work starts. The work of allowing it to frame our days and guide our experience, to be our kavanah as we move through these days of awe. So whatever our reason for being here in this moment, Hine knew, we are here. So how will you let your reason be your kavanah and allow it to guide your experience? How will you say Hineni over Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Perhaps you linger on a page or simply look out the window. If you're here out of familial guilt, maybe you should go home after services and work on that. But seriously, maybe you should talk to your family and talk about what makes coming to services meaningful or not. You may learn something new that gives you a new perspective on the holiday. And if you're here for self-exploration, allow yourself to listen and respond to the things that you want to love even more or the aspects that you want to change. If you're here to talk to God, then really talk and take your time in prayer. And if you're here to talk to Goldberg, then find Goldberg and truly connect. Let us embrace the spiritual exercise of setting an intention and allow for the possibility of the new experience these high holy days, one that says, here I am, and this is why. And so tonight we began with the words of Hineni together as a community. And perhaps it became too early in the service that we weren't able to give it the kavanah that we really had in our hearts and minds. And so if you would join with me on page 16, reciting Hineni with this kavanah for why we are here. Here I am, one soul within this prayer community. Like those around me, I bring my own concerns and yearning to this place, hoping they will find expression in the time-hallowed words of my people and in the traditions cherished by generations before me. May I bring the best of my energies to these holy days, approaching this spiritual work with an open heart and mind, sincerity and sustained focus of the deep questions of this season. Who am I? How shall I live? Where have I fallen short or failed? This night I take up the challenge of the days of awe, cheshbon hanefesh, a searching examination of my life, a moral inventory of my deeds, words, and thoughts. During the next 10 days, let me face the truth about myself and listen to your still small voice, taking comfort in your promise that I am always free to change, released from staleness and routine. Let me know the joy of beginning again. May I gain strength as I share this task with those around me, united by our common purpose, tikkun midot, improving our characters, and tikkun olam, repairing the world. I now prepare myself to pray, one soul amidst this holy Shana Tova.
And I will be my prayer for you, just as you want me to be. In the fullness of your steadfast love, embrace me, answer me.
And I will be my prayer for you, just as you want me to be. In the fullness of your steadfast love, embrace me, answer me. Vani